Here we go. All right, I am recording, guys. So as you guys join us, have a seat, relax. We'll get started in a few. I know it's probably 7:03, so I'll give it a couple more minutes, not even, and we'll get started. And just so all you guys know, if you have any questions for Kathleen, I will do the introduction. This is Kathleen. If you have any questions for her, please type them in the comments. I do have my phone, and whatever questions you have, put them in there. I would read them to her and she will answer them. Now, in the past, I have had issues not being able to see my comments. So if you ask a question and I don't ask Kathleen and she don't answer it, don't be mad at me. I don't know what's going on. But after the live, I will go back in, or Kathleen will go back in, and she'll read, and she could, answer them. She'll type it in, or I'll type it in, or whatever, or I'll tag her for her to answer the question. So I just want to let you know that I've had that issue where people have had asked questions, and I see some comments, and I sometimes don't see certain comments or don't see any comments. So it's not that I don't want to answer the questions. I don't know what's going on with Facebook. It's weird like that. And great, my family group chat is going off, so you might hear that beam in the background. Okay, guys, so it is 7:04, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you're watching, please invite friends and family. Please share it. Kathleen has her story, her journey, but she also has something very important to talk about and to bring awareness, something that I kind of knew, but maybe you don't know. So that's why I always have different people come on here and share their story, because we could learn something from each other and help each other out during our journey. Kathleen is from Montana, right? Montana. I want to go visit Montana. Ever since was that series Yellowstone, I want to go visit Montana.
Oh, please.
Oh my God,
Nothing
yes.
like that.
I know, but no, it's because the scenery was so
The
beautiful,
scenery.
the mountains,
Yes.
everything was so gorgeous. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see that. Yeah, that's the only reason. I love the mountains. I love it. Was just so peaceful, so beautiful, so God, breathtaking. That's why I want to go to Montana, because after seeing all that. But I did like Yellowstone. Anyways, she is stage 4. She is ALK positive like me. And she's gone on 11 years, guys. Let's give her a clap, give her a hand. 11 years living with lung cancer. And I say living because some people do like, the word survivor or survivorship, and some don't. So I just say living with lung cancer. So this is Kathleen, guys. Kathleen, take it away. And I remember, guys, questions, put them in the comments. Okay, Kathleen, share your story.
Well, thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it, Juanita. And I'm 66 years old. I've been married to my husband for, 37, almost 37 years.
Awesome.
And we have 6 children, and they are all grown, and 4 of the 6 are married, and we have 7 grandkids. The newest one is just 7 weeks old.
Oh,
and 5 girls and 2 boys.
wow.
And I have lived in a lot of different places. Montana's my home. It's where I was born, but I've also lived many other places, mostly rural or small town. So very different from you being from Chicago. I've never lived in a really big city before. I've either lived in the country, small town, or maybe just right now I live in I live in the biggest town in Montana, and we have 150,000 people.
Oh, wow.
So that tells you something about Montana.
Yeah.
And I found out that I had lung cancer almost 11 years ago. I started having symptoms 11 years ago. In September of 2013, I had developed a really bad cough. The cough itself actually wasn't from lung cancer. I was on a medication to try to control my migraines, because I've had migraines my whole life. And the medication actually made me cough.
Mhm.
And it was during that time that I would cough up a little bit of blood in the mornings.
Mhm.
So I was seeing a neurologist for the migraines. And so she said, well, that's a rare side effect of this medication, so we'll take you off of it. So she took me off the medication, and the cough actually did stop,
Okay.
but I still every morning was coughing up just a tiny little glob of blood. And I saw my primary, and she said, well, it's probably you, just from coughing so much, you eroded a blood vessel in your throat or something. And she said, it'll clear up. But she said, if it doesn't, I want you to come back and we'll do a CT scan. So that was in September, and I'm a nurse. So naturally, I did not go to the doctor, because nurses don't go to the doctor. And it continued for months, and I just ignored it.
Okay.
Until in December, I was actually with my job that I had at the time, I had to travel to do home visits.
Mhm.
And I was on a trip and actually got sick. I got bronchitis, and I started running a fever, and I was coughing up quite a bit of blood.
Oh, wow.
And again, I just thought it was an infection. I just thought it would eventually go away if I just ignored it long enough. And so I called my doctor, and she ordered some antibiotics for me, but she said, as soon as you get back in town, we're going to do a CAT scan. So I had the CAT scan right before Christmas. And she called me the day after Christmas on December of 2013 and said, we see a mass. And so I've got you scheduled to see a pulmonologist and have a bronchoscopy. Let's see. I had the bronchoscopy like the New Year's Eve or something like that. And then I had the appointment with the pulmonologist to get the results on January 3rd. And being a nurse, I knew that if you see a mass in the lung, it's pretty good chance it's cancer. So I had that whole couple of weeks to sort of prepare myself for that. And but yeah, we had a big family Christmas. My son brought his future wife and met her for the first time, and all that. We didn't tell the kids. My husband and I knew, but we didn't tell our children anything. And so just got through the holidays. And then, but when I saw the pulmonologist, and he told me, I wasn't shocked. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't do any of that, because I'd already prepared myself for the fact that that's probably what it was.
Mhm.
And so he told me it was non-small cell lung cancer, adenocarcinoma.
Mhm.
And so then I had to have all the PET scans and everything. And the PET scan showed that it was
job
just.
that I had at the time, I had to travel to do home visits.
Mhm.
Oops,
And I was
I'm hearing myself talk.
actually got sick. I
Wait,
got
hold on.
bronchitis.
Why is this? Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened here. Okay, I'm so sorry. It was
Oh,
like
that's okay.
double, like you're
Yeah.
talking over. Yeah, okay. I'm so sorry. Okay, I fixed it. Okay, go ahead.
So I had the PET scan right away, and it showed that it was just localized just to my lung,
Okay.
and there was nothing in my brain. And so the plan was to do just to do surgery. And my surgery was delayed. I couldn't have it until February. So
Mm.
my husband and I decided that I would just try to throw every natural therapy in the book at it. So I was doing apricot pits and Esiac tea and fasting and cottage cheese and flaxseed oil and all of this stuff. And the interesting thing is, it actually, I the coughing up blood actually stopped.
Oh,
2 days
wow.
before my surgery, we had decided that if it stopped a week before that, I wouldn't have surgery. But it's it didn't stop till 2 days before my surgery for the first time in like 5 months. So we went ahead and had the surgery. We just felt like that was God's will. And so I had the surgery, and all my lymph nodes were clear. It was just, it was a mass of about, what was it? How big was it? 3 centimeters.
Okay.
So it wasn't tiny, but it wasn't really big. But where it was located, it was located right where all 3 lobes meet. So they told me that I would probably lose my whole lung.
Wow.
But in the end, the thoracic surgeon was able, he took out 1.5 lobes.
Okay.
And so it actually probably would have been better if they'd taken out the whole lung. But at the time, we just thought that was great. And then I saw my oncologist, and he asked me, he said, you know, we can do chemo if you want. It'll improve your survival by about 5%. But right now, at your early stage, not knowing, you know, they didn't know about ALK much then. And he said, just generally for non-small cell lung cancer, the survival rate for stage 1B is about 80% without chemo, 85% with chemo. And I said, well, I don't want to do chemo. So he said, that's fine. So that was that. I mean, I still went in and had scans and everything, but I thought I was done with cancer. And I was down to just doing yearly scans.
Okay.
And then one day, it was actually on January 3rd of 2020, 6 years to the day when I got my diagnosis. Oh, and during that time, they did find out that it was ALK. My oncologist in this little town in Montana was pretty forward thinking, and he had biomarker testing done, which was not routine at that time.
Right.
And they found out it was ALK, and he was all excited because I was his first ALK patient. And he said, if it ever comes back, there's a drug you can take that'll just dissolve it. That's how he put it, which we know is not true, but that's what he said at the time. And he actually enrolled my tumor in a clinical study to study TKIs.
Oh, okay.
So that was in 2014. So I'm thinking it was probably alectinib. That was what they used it for. But anyway, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So January 3rd, 2020, exactly 6 years since my first diagnosis, I coughed up a glob of blood. And I called my oncologist, and they got me in that day and did a CT scan, and then there was another mass growing right on the staple of my previous surgery.
Wow.
And so I was not classified as stage 4. They didn't do an MRI because I wasn't having any symptoms. And so that was dumb. I turned it down. It was my own choice. But he didn't push it either. And I wish he had, because I probably had my brain tumor at that time, but because by the time they found it, it was pretty big.
Okay.
But I decided I wanted to see if I could beat it naturally because of the experience we had when the natural therapies that we did stop the coughing up the blood. So it did seem like it was having some effect. So I hired a health coach, and I did all of those same things that I did before. Plus I added water fasting. And in the next year, the whole year of 2020, I did 4 28-day water fasts. Every 3 months, I would fast for a month.
Wow.
And I've never met anybody that's done that. So I was pretty proud of myself for doing that. And it helped my health in a lot of ways, but it did not, my tumor in my chest, the way the doctor described it is it didn't get bigger, but it changed shape. Like it would get bigger in some areas and smaller in others. So he said, it's still metabolically active. He said, I can't say just because it's not any bigger. I can't say that it's dead because it's changing shape and going in this direction and that. He said, so it's still metabolically active. So that was discouraging after all of that. So we decided, still didn't get an MRI, decided to do radiation because I am very sensitive to medications, very sensitive. And I know now why, and I'll talk about that in a little while, but I didn't realize I have a genetic reason for being very sensitive to medications, but I just get a lot of side effects. So I didn't want to go on TKIs. And so we decided to try radiation since it still seemed like I just had the one tumor. And so I did intensity modulated radiation therapy, IMRT. Because of where my tumor was located, they said they couldn't do stereotactic. So this was a different kind. So I had 3 weeks, 3 weeks of radiation. And no sooner was I done than I started having symptoms of loss of balance, forgetfulness. I was having trouble driving. I kept hitting the curb when I drove. And I thought it was the car. I was blaming the car that I was driving. So my husband didn't want me driving this other car. And I just finally got mad and said, I always hit the curb when I drive this stupid car. I want to drive the other car. So I drove the other car. And the very first time I drove it, I whammed right into the curb. So I knew it was something with my brain. And I stopped driving that day. That was in April of 2021.
Okay.
And I went in and they found a pretty good sized brain tumor. So it had probably been there all along. But since I'd never had a MRI, I couldn't say. So I can't prove it, but I say that I was stage 4 in January of 2020. I'm sure I was. So they put me on steroids and I started on alectinib. And I was already developing pneumonitis from the radiation. And then on top of it, I got pneumonitis from alectinib.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. My poor lungs were a mess. Wow. And I did not have good medical care at that time. We had moved, so I wasn't with my original oncologist who I really liked. And I had a new guy and he wasn't around much. And they were totally unfamiliar with pneumonitis as a side effect of alectinib, and didn't order a CAT scan, didn't do anything they should have done. And in the end, I had to diagnose myself, and it was thanks to our group that it's like, oh, okay, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
So in the end, I stopped the medication myself, switched doctors, and told him that I wanted to go on half the dose once I was recovered. And that's who I'm still with, and he's great, and he basically does whatever I ask him to do. But but he's very aware of the fact that not everybody can handle the dosages that they try to prescribe for us. So I was on alectinib just for a few months, and really my lungs, even the half dose, I ended up with a pretty bad pleural effusion and was in the hospital and got obstructive pneumonia. The obstructive pneumonia was probably from the radiation scar tissue. And so we stopped the alectinib. I tried brigatinib, took 2 doses, ended up in the hospital with oxygen in the 70s. So pneumonitis again. So I've had 3 types of pneumonitis.
Wow.
One from radiation and one from alectinib and one from brigatinib.
Wow.
So I was very reluctant to try lorlatinib, and my oncologist said, we are going to put you on the smallest dose possible, which is 25 milligrams.
Mhm.
And we'll increase it. Most doctors start you on the highest and then reduce it. But
Yeah.
because of my history, he said, we don't want to get it so that you can't take anything
Right.
because it makes you so sick. So I was on lots of steroids for the pneumonitis, and we started at 25 milligrams and just stayed there. And just 5 weeks later, I had an MRI and my brain tumor had shrunk. So he
Good.
said, you're responding to 25 milligrams. There is no point in going higher.
Right.
And I was already, I do have significant side effects even at 25 milligrams.
Oh yeah.
So, so that's where I'm at, 25 milligrams of lorlatinib. And I have since discovered that I have a gene mutation which affects the metabolic pathway by which we eliminate our TKIs.
Mhm.
So I eliminate it slower
Mhm.
than somebody who doesn't have that mutation. And 5% of the population has that mutation.
Wow.
So, so it probably 5% of people with ALK probably also have that mutation, which is why some people have so much trouble with toxic side effects.
Mm.
But unfortunately, in the US, doctors don't pay any attention to that kind of stuff. They don't test for it. They don't adjust dosages based on genetic profiles. So that's something that if I'm an advocate for anything, it's probably that doctors, the medical community needs to individualize medication dosaging. And it's not a one size fits all
I
thing.
think that would be a great idea if you advocate for that, because this is the first time actually me hearing it. So, like I said, when I do these Facebook Live with different people, I learn something new every time. And maybe I did hear about it, maybe at a conference or something. Maybe I didn't pay attention to it because it doesn't affect me like it does you. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well,
But
I bring it up every once in a while on
okay, well
the
that's
on the
good.
Facebook group.
Yes, well that's good, Greg. Bring it up at least once a month, once a week. I think that's very important, and thank you so much for sharing that. Like I said, maybe I knew, maybe I didn't, but you know what? I just call my brain electing a brain because I can't I can't remember half the time. My husband's like, I told you that. I'm like, you did? Like he
Yeah,
probably did, but I don't remember. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
Yeah. So, oh my goodness, that's wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's like, you know, and I'm glad you brought up the natural remedies or natural medicine or whatever people call them nowadays. Um, because in the beginning of my journey, I remember I was looking for like groups to join, and I came across, I want to say, two different groups, and it was all about natural. And I don't know if it was lung cancer, maybe one was lung cancer, one was just regular cancer, right? And then I remember I shared something on there, and oh my God, they kicked me out. They told me you can't share this here. We don't believe in this. We're all natural and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, and I remember messaging and saying, okay, I get it. I did natural remedies and natural stuff while doing chemo radiation, and even on my targeted therapy medication or treatments. I'm like, I said, I don't, I mean, no, 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 they were so against this. I don't even know that group existed and people are still alive. I don't know.
Hmm.
Uh, but yes, there are people out there that says, nope, no, I'm gonna do all natural. I'm not gonna do this. And okay, I get it. But you're right. That alone is not going to make our lung cancer or any type of cancer go away. I I remember when here, because I live in Northwest Indiana, but it's Chicago. Chicago's my city. I'm so close to the city. It's like here, like here's Indiana, here's Illinois, and I'm like from here, hop, jump, skip. Literally, we could ride our bikes into the city. So there was a cancer center which was about 2 hours away. I remember going there, and I remember I was waiting to have radiation, and a good friend of mine was there, and so they called me in, and she waited in the lobby, and she was talking, and it was a lady and a man. And this lady, I want to say it was breast cancer. I'm, I'm going with breast cancer because I was almost 10 years ago. And my friend was talking to her, asking her questions, and she said, she was diagnosed at stage 1 or something like that. She goes, I went on natural. I wanted to do it naturally, heal myself. She did everything that you could possibly think of. Stuff that you probably done, stuff that I've done. And she told my friend it didn't work. I went from stage 1 to stage 4, and I'm here. And she told my friend, yes, it helps, but it's not going to cure us. We need medicine, or chemo, radiation, targeted therapy, surgery, proton therapy, stereotactic radiation. I mean, whatever it is, we need it, right? Um, and when I came out, my friend shared that story with me, and in a way, I was kind of relieved because my husband was like, no chemo, no chemo, no chemo. And I'm like, we got to do something. And we did the natural stuff. I mean, I'm telling you, girls, soursop. Um, they even sent me something about blood red oranges. Oh God, what was it? Apricot, the inside of the apricot seed.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay, I did that. Oh my God, Kathleen, I can't even think. Some tea. My mom, she was from Puerto Rico. Her friends were like, "Oh, you got to give her this tea. It's a root or something from the island." I had people sending from Puerto Rico, which fine. Tea was nasty as hell. I drank that, and then this other tea, and then this other tea, and my mom's friend, she passed away. May she rest in peace. She passed away before my mom did. No, I'm sorry. She passed away after my mom. She came to my house with a big pot. She's like, "You give this to your daughter." And she would come and make the tea for. I was like, I did all that. Did it help? Yeah. I mean, it didn't cure my cancer, but it made you feel better. Like you have shared with me, the bleeding has stopped me. The turmeric, whatever people call it, my inflammation, because I had radiation pneumonitis. I had pneumonitis too, but mine was radiation pneumonitis. So it helped my lungs. So yes, to me, a mixture of that does help, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell people, oh yeah, natural medicine, natural stuff, earth. It helps, but it's not going to cure us, guys. I've done it, and you heard it from Kathleen. She's tried it too. We still had to go on, what do you want to call it? Scientific medicine,
Conventional
Yeah. But
therapies,
there you
yeah.
go, conventional, yeah. Um, yeah,
Well, I have heard of some people
Mhm.
that have been able to overcome cancer, or at least temporarily overcome cancer. I don't know their life stories.
Right.
Using it. And what I learned was that there's two different kinds of tumors. There's what's called hot tumors.
Mhm.
Hot tumors generally will have like lung cancers that respond to immune therapy
Mhm.
are hot tumors. And
Oh,
the whole reason that immune therapy works is because it helps your own immune system
right.
to recognize the cancer and fight it.
Mhm.
And that's what natural therapies claim to do, is to rev up your own immune system to fight cancer. And so I think for people with hot tumors that can be seen and attacked by your immune system, so natural therapies might actually be helpful.
Yeah.
Our ALK cancers and most gene mutation cancers, ALK, ROS, EGFR, all of those are cold tumors. They actually, the cancer cells have figured out a way to fly under the periscope, or whatever the saying is, to hide from the immune system. That's why immune therapies don't work on elk,
Yeah, that's what I,
because you can rev up the immune system all you want, but if the immune system doesn't recognize the cancer cells, it's not going to work.
Mm.
And so on cold tumors, natural therapies are not going to have as much of an effect. Now, I can't say that they didn't help at all, because, like I said, my tumor did not actually get larger during that year that I only did natural therapies.
okay,
But it was still metabolically active. It never shrank it.
right.
And I think for what I did, I think if it was going to work, it would have worked in that time. It should have shrunk, because, like, for example, the last fast that I did, which was the month of October, I had nothing but water for 28 days. And I also did really high dose vitamin C, IV vitamin C,
Okay,
which is supposedly supposed to just kill any cancer, especially if you're in a fasted state, because your insulin level is really low, your blood sugar is really low. So the IV vitamin C is just going to go straight to the cancer and kill it. And I did that, and then I had a scan right away, and it didn't shrink it at all. So that was pretty much when I decided, yeah, I probably am going to have to do some other stuff. So that's when I decided to have the radiation.
okay,
So I'm not going to say that natural therapies don't work, because I think they do for some people. And I had health conditions for years that migraines and fibromyalgia and some other things that conventional medicine was absolutely useless.
mhm,
And I found a lot of help and relief in alternative therapies. So I was already kind of in that space of alternative therapies are the way to go.
mhm.
So I really did try, but it didn't work. And the other thing that I try to tell people who are really reluctant to try conventional therapies is that cancer treatment is not like it was 30 years ago. Even chemo, most people, I worked as an oncology nurse 30 years ago. I gave chemo. I know what it was like. It was awful.
Mhm.
And some people still have that reaction, but for most people, they have they've reduced the dosages, they've modulated things, they have drugs that really help with the side effects. And so even chemo is nothing like it used to be. And now we have immunotherapies if your cancer responds to them. We have targeted therapy. They're working on vaccines for cancer. They're working on what's it called? The TIL? Is it called? Anyway, there's so many therapies that it's an exciting time to have cancer, if there is such a thing to say. But yeah, it's just, and I think I'm still very careful with my diet. I still take a lot of supplements. And I think it supports my overall health,
Yeah,
but I don't think that it's going to cure my cancer.
yeah, and that's a good point that you brought up. Like I said, when I did them, yeah, it helped me in other areas. I know that I was developing neuropathy, and I would work out, and so I think was it glutamine, one of them, and I was taking one that the cancer center gave me, and uh, I used to do CrossFit, and my friend, they owned one. And I'm telling you, after 2020, it's like, and I owned one too. It's like everything closed down thanks to the pandemic. But he told me, he goes, "What are you drinking?" I said, "Well, they gave me this." He goes, "No, try this." And his it was a brand, and it was black cherry, it was flavored. I'm like, oh. So he, gave me water, I drank it. Oh my God, it was so good. I drink it now.
Mm.
Or if I work out or don't. But that drinking that all the time did help. And I think I have a little bit of neuropathy, and I think I blame alectinib because there's certain things that I like, and I always get new side effects, and I try to write it down to let my oncologist know, like something new. And it's like I noticed that I get tired legs. I never used to do that. Even
Mhm.
my legs are like they feel tired, like especially when I'm like restless leg, like if I'm sleeping, I'm in the bed, I'm moving my legs a lot. Like it's weird. I can't explain it. And it's like I never had this crap before. I'm like, oh, there goes another side effect of alectinib.
Yeah.
And like you
Yep.
said, you go in the group. What okay, so Terry, one of our other lung cancer sisters, she likes to call us the ones that have been living longer with lung cancer because she's 20 plus years. She says, "We're the dinosaurs." I'm like, I like I like to be called like the grandmas of it. Like, call us the grandmas. I'm a grandma. Like, and she
The
calls me
cougars.
right. So the dinosaurs of lung cancer. And you know what? Alectinib also makes me whatever I'm thinking about or whatever I'm ready to talk, I forget like that. I don't know if that happens with you with loratinib.
Oh, yeah.
It's and I'm
Plus, I've had brain surgery, so
okay. See, I have
combine those
brain
two.
meds, but mines are so tiny and so they're stable. So I haven't had stereotactic radiation or any type of certain none of that. Because they're so tiny, you can't even measure them. But I was getting to a point with you right now, and I mentioned Terry. I was getting somewhere and I forgot. And that, but Kathleen, that happens to me. Oh, the side effects. So, I will go in my group in our ALK group if it's ALK positive or even ALKIes Unlimited, but I will go on there, and even though like I'm the dinosaur, I'm living longer than most. So, well, you because I don't know if you if it was Alkies Unlimited or Alk Positive when you told me, yeah, I'll do it because I shared it on both. I think I don't even remember, but I usually go more on Alkies Unlimited, and of course I've been in the group from day one, but I really never posted because I was on Cicadia, which is Ceritinib, for like 7 years. So
Mm.
all this about everything else, it's like it didn't pertain to me. I'm just like, okay, well, none of this, and then I get brain meds, and then I get a change, and all of a sudden I'm new to alectinib. So I'm like the dinosaur in lung cancer, but I'm the baby in alectinib. So I'm
Right.
posting, oh my God, oh my God, guys. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I know you all know that I'm this big advocate and I've been living with lung cancer, but this is I don't know crap about alectinib. I don't like alectinib. And they will laugh. They'll put aloe out. They're like, it's okay. We understand. I'm like, I'm the baby here. I'm the
Uh-huh.
help me. And they were like, yup, yup, yup. Like when the first time my hands got so pruned, I was like, what the hell is this? I'm putting lotion. I'm like, what is this? Like, look, they were so pruned, like I was underwater and my hands look old. And I started crying and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? I look like an old. It was, and they're like, yeah, you got pruned hands, a side effect. Well, what do I do? Nothing really. Either
Uh,
way, I lotion up. Oh my God, I use every lotion under the sun, and so I don't have really prune hands anymore, and my hands don't look old. But it was scary, and it's stuff like that. And like you said, we learned a lot from our groups. So
mhm.
if you're watching this and you're not ALK, but let's say you're ROS1 or you're EGFR, or maybe you're no mutation, even no mutation, there's a group in Facebook for you guys out there. Join those groups because if whatever treatment you're on, even my oncologist said, I will believe and trust your group before anything. Because I went and I saw her, was it last month? We're in September. Yeah, August. I told her about I said, I think there's a new side effect. And I forgot what it was. Again, I forgot, right? And I told her, so I went in the Elks group and she goes, well, I will believe them for anything. So yeah, most likely it's a side effect. But she wrote it down. I don't remember what it was. But she even said, because that's how we communicate, we're sharing, we're on there saying, oh my God, this happened. Oh my God, that happened. I even asked about gout. I said, is it because I eat a lot of red meat or could it be a side effect of alectinib? I didn't know. I looked up gout. Well, first I looked up the pain I had and then it said possibly gout. And I'm like, And my husband's like, yeah. He goes, but you don't really eat a lot of red meat. We eat it once in a blue moon. I'm like, well, what is this? So I went on the Elks group. I said, hey, is this possible? They're like, no, Juanita, we don't think it is. I learned. So yeah, take our advice, guys. Make sure you're in a group that could help you out. I think it's a great idea. Like Kathleen said, you know, any group is better than no group. You won't feel so alone. You have a community and you have that support within that group. Even if it's just a lung cancer group. I'm on several and there's so much information out there, even in just regular lung cancer groups. So if you're not in one, make sure you're in a group. And if you're battling a different type of cancer, not necessarily lung cancer, there's groups out there for that as well. And so find one and join in and get that support that you need because it's very important. And I know earlier, Kathleen, you're talking about how lung cancer, that people don't realize how different it is. And you being a nurse, talk a little bit about that so people could have an understanding, because I've said that before and they look at me like I'm crazy.
Well, okay. And I don't know if this is unique to our kind of lung cancer or not. But I went 6 years without evidence of any after I had my surgery. And so at 5 years, they say, oh, you're cured. And so I had my last scan at 5 years. And even my oncologist said, go live your life. You're cured. You don't have cancer anymore. And a year later, I coughed up blood. And so, and we have, I think there's one guy in our group who he went, I want to say like 11 years.
Wow.
And it was the same kind of cancer because he had it biopsied both times. So it wasn't like a new primary.
Right.
And that's a lot of times they'll say, oh, well, it was a new primary. You just are, because I have, oh, now I've forgotten it. It's the mutation that makes you more prone to have cancer. I forgot. Can't remember what it's called. But anyway, I have that. And but my tumor was growing on the staple of my previous surgery. So that would be hard to so somehow for 6 years, those cells hung around in that spot. Never big enough to be detected by scans, but still alive until they grew enough to start causing symptoms again. And so now, with my current treatment, I've had no evidence of disease below the neck since I had radiation. So that's been 4 years ago. And then in my brain, it has been stable for 4 years. And then I had surgery a year and a half ago because I just had a residual tumor that wouldn't shrink anymore. And I didn't want to have radiation after having the experience I had with pneumonitis in my lungs. And it's still debilitating. And I was afraid of necrosis. So Dr. Patil, who works under Dr. Kamich in Denver, agreed with me that I could have surgery. So I had the tumor removed and it still had live cancer cells, even after being on lorlatinib for a year at that time. And so I've been no evidence of disease below the neck for 4 years, in the brain for a year and a half. And people, so, oh, you're in remission. You must be cured. There's no, like people in my church, I made the mistake of saying that I had no evidence of disease. I should have never done that because now they all think I don't have cancer.
Oh, man.
And so like when it progresses, because it's going to eventually, they're going to all be like crying and, oh, this is so terrible, we're out. Whereas I'm going to be like, well, it's just another day in Auckland, you know. This is just how it works.
Yeah.
So I think for us, we have to, it's probably not just better not to use that terminology. It's just better to say we're stable.
Yeah.
And that someday I won't be stable. And then when that happens, I'll change medications or I'll have radiation or do chemo or whatever. But, you know, there might be people out there. I haven't met one yet, but then when you are cured by surgery, you don't participate in groups. So,
Yeah.
but I've heard enough people like me who it was caught, excuse me, caught in an early stage. Whereas like most people, it wouldn't, and maybe they even had chemo, but it still came back.
Yeah.
And so ours seems to be persistent.
Right. Yes.
So we have to learn to deal with it as it's a chronic condition.
Yes.
And you know, for some people it's more acute, but for me it's definitely a chronic thing that I'm gonna just have to live with for a while.
Exactly. And that's where I'm at too. I said, mine's now became more of a chronic condition. I'm stable. I go every 3 months for a CT scan, blood work, and I go every 3 months for an MRI. And I just don't think of nothing else. I go, I do what I got to do, continue. And I continue to live life to its fullest. And, people, they say, oh, well, don't lose the faith, have faith. I'm like, look, when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. No prayers is going to help any of that. When it's your time, it's your time. We all have an exit day. So I'm not going to sit there and worry myself and this and that. No, I'm going to enjoy now, right now. I'm living right now, the present. The past is gone. I ain't worried about the past. How did I get it? I should have done this, should have done that. Coulda, woulda, should have, what caused my cancer? Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done. You know what? That's gone. Close that door. Say goodbye. Live now, present, future. I ain't worried about the future. It ain't there yet. I'm gonna live now. Well, I said goals for the future, of course. My goals is traveling, Kathleen. So I'm like, okay, this year got trips, got one next month, got one in November. I'm done for the New Year. It's gonna be hard because I got planned my daughter's baby shower. Baby comes in March. Be busy with baby. It's I have two grandkids from my son, but this is one of my daughters. So it's a first, it's different. But I'm gonna spoil that baby like I spoil my other two, because my other two are my world. Then my other daughter's getting married, and then planning that wedding and that bridal shower, and it's like, oh my God! So, am I gonna have time to go on a trip? Probably not, which is okay. But if I could do one trip, I will. One nice trip, and then so I'll plan that for the future, and that's my goal, to reach that. Does that make sense? Yeah. And my goals are baby shower, wedding, bridal shower, wedding. Those are my goals, and maybe one vacation next year, because I'll be so busy with planning everything, and then I'll be broke, girl. Like
Right.
I need to go sell a kidney to get some money.
I don't think they'll take our kidneys, unfortunately.
I know, right? They won't. I know. I mean, no, you're not. You got lung cancer, and your kidneys are toxic with all your targeted therapy treatments. Damn it. Okay. Well, will you take my husband's kidneys? No, I'm just kidding. But so I just tell people, we're living with it. Live your best life. Don't worry about it. You have your groups. Lean on them for support, suggestions, advice. And we usually don't I don't try to say anything medical, because I don't want to come back. Oh, well, Juanita said, like someone asked me about the brain mets and all this and necrosis. I'm like, look, I don't know about that. And she worried about the necrosis. I said, look, I get MRIs every 3 months. I don't even worry about that. See, I'm not going to worry about stuff like that, because it's going to drive me crazy. I go, and I hope I don't develop that. I said, I can't tell you what to do. All I can tell you is, you're so worried about it, talk to your oncologist. talk to your oncologist and have them, your medical team, explain to you, is it high risk? Is it low risk? I said, unfortunately, for your brain mets and your lung cancer, you're gonna have to do what you gotta do.
Mhm.
I mean, I get it. I get it. It's a scary thing. But if I'm going on 10 years and now I know you're going on 11 years and Terry is going and Bobby, another one who's 18 years and another one who's on, I mean, we're living longer. So look at it like that. It's now a chronic disease
Mhm.
that we're maintaining and it's stable. Think of it that way and maybe you won't drive yourself crazy. That's what I tell people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I realize how fortunate I am, as weird as it sounds for a person who has stage 4 cancer to say how fortunate they are, but mine's very, very slow growing, very well behaved.
Yeah.
You know, I've only ever had 2 tumors in my entire cancer career. And you know, other people aren't so fortunate.
Right.
They progress very quickly and don't find things that work for them. But I was really encouraged by what they talked about at the last ALK Summit,
Mhm.
that they really want to start studying people like you and me
Yes.
to find out why we're stable.
Yes.
They up until now, the emphasis has been on, well, when somebody progresses, we do all this testing and we find out why they've progressed and blah 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 blah. But if you're stable, they just kind of, well, oh well, you're stable.
Yeah.
And instead, that's when they need to study. Why are you stable?
Why?
Let's
Yeah.
find out what's going on with you because you're stable.
Exactly. Exactly. I went to the Elk Summit and there's a lot of stuff that because I didn't go for years. I went to the very, very first one. God, it was in Louisville, Kentucky. And oh God, what's her name? She was still alive and I roomed with her.
Linnea.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't think of her name, Linnea. And we used to have some good conversations. And um her and my husband became very close. And but we had some good conversation and I roomed with her and we talked a lot, about that. And when she passed, it was sad. But you know what? I always tell people she laid that foundation for us. Now we
Yeah.
passed the torch to us. Now it's our turn. And so yeah, and then I didn't go to any of the other outcomes. I don't know why. There was always an excuse. So this one, it was in Nashville. I told my husband because, well, I could take Friday out. We could drive down there. It's only like a 6, 7 hour drive from us. I'm like, let's go. So I signed up last minute. We went. And even my husband and I, we learned a lot of stuff. I knew there was a clinical trial. And actually, that clinical trial they talked about the Elk Summit, my oncologist at University of Chicago Medical Center, she's doing it there. I'm like, oh, so if I needed it, at least I know. But that might hopefully be another one that will be FDA approved for us. So it's like, okay, so I learned that there's more treatments out there because I was worried. I go, I'm on alectinib. My last stop is loratinib. After that, there's nothing. And then I do get kind of sad and worry. I'm like, okay, when I was diagnosed, I prayed. If there's a deity out there, a higher power, the creator, maker, God, whatever it is, if you really exist and you're out there, I just want to meet at least one grandchildren. I want to know what it feels like to be a grandma. I go, don't take
Mhm.
that away from me. Um, and I got it. I got two. Now I have three. So it's like, okay, is there any more treatments coming? Because I want to meet more
We'll
and
keep this going. Yeah.
I want to keep this going. And then I go there and yes, there's more treatments coming up to keep going. So I remember I started crying because I was so happy. Like, wow. And I told my husband, there's hope. I can make it maybe another 10 years. He goes, no, let's try another 20, 30 years. I'm like, okay. He
Yeah.
always adds more years. I always settle for like less. 10 more years? He goes like, no, let's try 20, 30 years. Let's grow old together. I'm like, okay. He goes, maybe you'll make it to 100. I said, wow, I'll be the longest living lung cancer person. I said, maybe I'll make the what is it? The
The
world.
Guinness Book of
There
World
you
Records.
go. So like, yeah, that it gave me hope and like, I learned so much. So I'm glad I went. Um, hopefully I could go next year with the new baby and wedding planning and all that. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to do anything next year, but I'll see what I can. Maybe I can make the Hope Summit in May. I might be able to make that for longevity. Hopefully I can make the Elk Summit. I gotta see. I know the bridal shower will be in August and the baby shower's in January, so I might be able to make some other stuff. I can't make the go-to um voice conference where we go up to the hill because I think that's in March and my daughter's due in March. So I gotta miss that again this next year. I missed this year and I love going to that. So we'll see. We'll see what I could do to continue my advocacy and be that voice and and go from there. So Kathleen, there is no questions, but again, I do have issues with my comments. So when we're done, we could go back and look to see if anyone did ask questions and they're just not showing up on my end. But before we end, because it's the hour, before we end, do you have for our viewers any words of encouragement, uplifting words, advice that you could give someone that's watching that just might be like just might be in that funk and they just need to hear something to uplift them and give them that hope. Can you share something with the viewers?
I do. I was thinking of this as you were just talking about asking God to please let you live to see one grandchild. So I'm a person of very strong faith, and it helps me a lot. But I still live in the real world, and when I found out I had a lung tumor, I was 54 years old. No, 55. I don't know. I was in my mid 50s.
Okay.
My youngest child was 12. My youngest daughter was 12. And I figured I wouldn't live long because it was lung cancer. You know, people with lung cancer die.
Right.
That's what I thought before I found everything out. And my youngest daughter is now 23. She's married, and her little baby had her first birthday today.
Oh, happy
And
birthday.
she was my sixth grandchild. So at the time that I was diagnosed, none of my kids were married. My youngest was 12. I had no grandchildren. Now four of my six are married, and fifth has a serious girlfriend. And I have 7 grandchildren, including my youngest child has has a little baby girl. And I don't see an end in sight. Like you say, we all have an expiration date, but I'm old enough now, I'm 66, that, 66-year-old people start to think about death. So I don't feel like I'm unusual in that if I die from something, because I do have heart problems now because of our wonderful drugs and radiation. And it's actually probably more likely that I'll die of a heart attack than of cancer, but that's okay. Like you say, we all are going to die of something.
Right.
And I'm ready to go whenever that is. But 11 years ago, I thought I was going to die soon. And 11 years later, I'm still here, and I'm doing well. And my cancer is very stable.
Mhm.
And I think that is going to be the reality for more and more and more people as the research continues. So go research,
Yes.
go go advocacy. I think we are the ones that are changing the face of lung cancer.
Yes. Thank you for that. It's so true. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for taking time on this Thursday evening to share your story. I learned so much. Your story is so inspiring, and 11 years, 10 years for me, and it just gives me more hope. And I'll take a chronic disease stable any day, long as I can meet more grandchildren and live life. And I'm so happy that you got to meet 6 beautiful grandchildren. I hope that's me one day. I want to grow up to be like you. I don't know, my kids will give me a lot of grandkids, 6, but hey, I'm happy with what I got. Been blessed with 2 beautiful grandchildren and now a third on the way. And I'm just so happy. And I am thankful every day that prayer, my asking or manifestation, whatever you want to call it, you know, was answered. So I am thankful every single day. And I'm thankful that I'm here every day as well. But thank you for sharing your story and taking time, and viewers, thank you for staying and listening to Kathleen's story. If this story resonates with you, if it's something that, you know, you're going through in your lung cancer journey, and you want to reach out to Kathleen and ask her more questions, and go right ahead, look for her on Facebook. If not, let me know. I get you guys together, because sometimes people watch this and they're like, yeah, you know what, my story's similar to Kathleen's, and I want to talk to her more about it, because you might be 2-3 years and she's 11. So speak to someone that has similar situations like you. It just helps your journey just go smoothly, and it just gives you that comfort and that hope. And don't be afraid to talk either. So again, thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Kathleen, and good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you. Thanks
You're
for having me.
welcome. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.